Just because a person can't remember, it doesn't mean that they don't understand. And with dementia, just because they can't remember in the present doesn't mean they can't remember the past. So there's a vast range of cognition, and it's important to know which level and aspect of cognition a person has. Now, a way to be able to assess someone's cognition is their interest. If someone is interested in crosswords, for example, and can fill out a crossword fully, that's a high level of cognition, and dementia residents can do that. Or if a dementia resident is interested to read the newspaper and they read it regularly and daily and can converse with you about it, that's also a high level of cognition. So this cognition and this whole aspect of being able to supply and provide and give resources to dementia residents so they can maintain that cognition is really important. There was one gentleman that came into the unit. He was a big walker, lovely man. He'd been a hard-working man at lots of different jobs all throughout his life, and he loved reading the newspaper. Didn't have any family, hadn't married, no children, but he did have a very thoughtful niece who came in, and he came into the unit. He was quite settled. The first thing she said was, "And of course, we will continue your daily subscription of the newspaper." Wow, the moment. That was so good to hear. And he was only 2 of 30 in the unit that had a subscription, but it just was the lifeblood for him. Life continued as usual, pretty much. He couldn't get out to walk as much, of course, which was a big problem because he was a great walker, but because he had the newspaper 2-3 hours each morning, read the newspaper, came to all the activities, had the cognition, good communicator, he didn't become depressed or anxious, even without the walking. I was quite surprised actually, because I thought with him having been such a big walker that he'd really miss it, but he seemed to adjust really well because he had the newspaper, his routine, his reading schedule, that really helped him balance out, at least cognitively, even without the walking. So that was really interesting. In contrast to this, there was another woman. She was a very bright, articulate, chatty, chirpy lady, always smiling and such a pleasant person to have around. And I noticed that when she walked past the Netflix programs, David Attenborough or any Netflix smart TV program, she'd read the subtitles. She was good at reading. She'd just read them out loud to everyone, whether they were watching it or not, whether they wanted her to read it out or not, she would. And her family came in one day and I said, "Your mother is really, really good at reading. She's reading all the Netflix subtitles." And they said, "Oh yes, she's always been a good reader." And I wasn't in the position to say, "Well, how about you bring in some reading material for her then?" I mean, why wouldn't you think of that? And that's the thing, thinking things through. That's what needs to happen. Rather than the preconditioned mindset, dementia, no thinking, doesn't matter. Mum just needs to be cared for and that's it. Really, it needs to be thought through. Like if Mum loves reading and Mum is reading, then surely she'll want some reading material. Anyway, she was lovely. So what I did is I just got a whole pile of National Geographics. I just borrowed them from someone else's room, returned them later. I left half the pile for them. I had to because there wasn't much around. So I took half the pile, brought them into the dining room, and did she love seeing the cheetahs and the zebras and the rhinoceros and the cheetah, fastest animal in the world, and 60 kilometers, up to 60 kilometers in 3 seconds, and 60 miles an hour, twice as fast as any man, and this whole article. She read it out. She was a really good reader. Everyone would gather around. She'd show them the cheetah in the article. She was excellent, as good as any school teacher. And she loved those National Geographics. And it was just so nice to see her so enthralled, because she was so interested and engaged and had the cognition to master reading, presenting. showing the pictures just like any school teacher. It was a delight, actually. It really was a delight. So at least she got the chance with the National Geographics, even though I thought the family could have done a bit more, but never mind, each to their own. Everyone's so different, you know, in every way in dementia facilities. And we just have to accept it. But education's needed, big time, with the public, the power of attorney and resources happening, libraries happening, thinking of it like a big classroom in the day with these activities, all these wonderful activities. But if there was reading and facilities and resources and newspapers and magazines and things like in a library, so much better the life would be of dementia residents, so much better. I mean, of course they're penalised not being able to get out to walk as much as they'd like, and that's so hard, but at least you can put a library in the place and have common access for people. It's something that can be done. You can't always have a team or tribe of people taking people out for walks, but at least you can have a situation, access to a library. And anyway, they've got the lounge, their room and the dining room. They've got plenty of places to read. All the quiet, well, it's not that quiet, I have to say, but hopefully they can find a quiet spot. They've got comfortable chairs. They've got seats in the sun. I mean, everything's there. They just need to have access to the resources. And for that, people need to realise that even though these wonderful people have lost memory, it doesn't mean they can't think. It doesn't mean they can't understand. And it certainly doesn't mean that they can't read. So these wonderful topics for the dementia residents, all these things I've written about in these 2 books at length, The Resident's Voice from a Dementia Unit and The Resident's Rise from a Dementia Unit on Amazon and my website, and the soft copy, hard copy ebook. Good read, good reading, light reading, all about the residents and all their trials and tribulations and efforts and wonderful efforts these people make. So if you're a reader, please get that, and you can lend it out to people, and just like a little library. Those books are like little libraries about what happens and what's needed for dementia units. So just one for a village, one for a family, doesn't matter. Just have that as a library copy, and then lots of people can get to read it. If it's ebook, share it round. Thank you for your subscriptions, and please pass on. Thank you.